Is Carter Hart the worst signing in Golden Knights history? What's up? This is Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff, and on today's show, there's bad news on William Karlsson's injury. Jesse Granger of The Athletic is going to join the show to talk about the Golden Knights and goaltending, and UNLV might actually win a Mountain West game. Shout out to Battle Blast Las Vegas for sponsoring the show. Very excited to have Battle Blast on board here at Technically Correct. A big deal for me here in 2026. Here we go. Carter Hart is hurt and is week to week. We'll see if there's a more official update, but I wouldn't count on it from the Golden Knights. And what it means is the Carter Hart signing looks about as bad as it possibly can on every possible front. The Golden Knights went out of their way to sign a player that was accused and acquitted of sexual assault. Carter Hart was not a great goalie in his career. He was average, and then because of the sexual assault allegation, did not play for almost 2 full years. He was suspended by the NHL. Despite being acquitted, they still suspended him because Carter Hart and the other members of the Canadian junior hockey team screwed up. The Golden Knights said, we want that guy. We want the guy accused of sexual assault. We want the guy who got off acquitted of sexual assault. Kelly McCrimmon wanted this guy on his team. Obviously, they got hammered for it. We've talked about that a lot. Vegas Golden Sex Offenders, right? The Golden Knights Twitter account basically went to a bare minimum for a week of tweets because they were getting overrun with Vegas Golden Sex Offender tweets, right? Even last game against San Jose, someone had a sign that said Howden heard her weeping, referring to Brett Howden hearing the victim crying during the sexual assault allegations. Basically, the Golden Knights took this huge hit to their image to sign Carter Hart. And then he was terrible. Carter Hart's the worst goalie on the team this year. 4 guys have played, and his save percentage at .871 is the worst on the team. His goals saved above average at -7.3 is the worst on the team. His goals against average at 3.8 is the worst on the team. It's all a small sample size. He's played 12 games, right? Carl Lindbaum has only played 8. Aiden Hill's under 10, right? Like, it's small sample size numbers. But Carl Lindbaum is the AHL goalie that lots of people said had to be replaced by Carter Hart, right? There were people that defended the Carter Hart signing by saying, well, have you seen Carl Lindbaum play? Carl Lindbaum has been better across the board than Carter Hart has this season. He's better. Save percentage, goals saved above average, goals against average, whatever regular or advanced stat you want to use. Carl Lindbaum has been better than Carter Hart. And now Carter Hart's hurt. Signed a 2-year contract, so he'll probably be on the team next year, right? He might even come back this season. We'll see what the actual update is on Carter Hart. So we haven't seen the last, most likely, we haven't seen the last of Carter Hart as a Golden Knight. But this could not have gone worse in literally every possible way. You take the PR hit, he's terrible on the ice, and now he's hurt and can't help you anymore. That everything that could have gone wrong, I guess he didn't sexually assault somebody in Vegas, right? Like, everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong with the Carter Hart signing. Kelly McCrimmon thought he was outsmarting the rest of the NHL by signing a player acquitted of sexual assault. And now it looks like he just hurt the franchise in like 3 different ways, right? Worst signing the franchise has ever had. And this is an organization that went and got Robin Lehner and made Marc-Andre Fleury mad. And we had a whole sword in the back of Fleury tweeted out by Fleury's agent. Vadim Shipachyov was going to be this big-time star in year 1. What did he play? 3 games? Scored 1 goal, complained about the smoke in casinos, and was out of here, right? This team, they haven't made that many mistakes. They wouldn't be very good if they had made too many mistakes. But it's the worst signing in franchise history. And it's not even close at this point. So, what are the Golden Knights going to do at goalie now, right? Carter Hart's hurt. He's listed as week to week. The good news is that Aiden Hill is probably going to come back soon, but with Carter Hart and week to week, normally that means at least a month, usually more. It's mid-January. 2 months from now would put him out till mid-March. If it's any longer than that, we're getting into the playoffs, which start in mid-April, and then the conversation would be, is Carter Hart coming back at all this season? But Aiden Hill should be coming back from injury soon. Maybe this week. Last time Bruce Cassidy talked about it, he had not ruled him out for this week. So there's no real concrete answer on his return, as there is or isn't with every player on the Golden Knights. So you might have, obviously you got to survive a little bit here, but you might have just the switch from Carter Hart to Aiden Hill as your top goalie, which should be improvement, right? Carter Hart was very, very bad. But Aiden Hill's injury history and the fact that he's coming back from one right now makes his availability still a question mark, even when he's back. I still think that's something you have to be ready for or planning for as an organization. If Aiden Hill is your top goalie, I don't think you can just expect him to come back at some point here in January and then he's just the guy that gets 2/3 of the games, or however many they want to give him. I don't think you can just assume that that's actually going to play out. Maybe it does, but I don't think you can. So what the Golden Knights have right now is Akira Schmid and Carl Lindbaum. In theory, they're going to have Akira Schmid backing up Aiden Hill very soon. How do you feel about that duo? Kelly McCrimmon didn't like it that much. Not enough to make a real signing at goalie, but he got Carter Hart. I should rephrase that. He was reportedly interested in Carter Hart, and the Golden Knights were the front runners, the team likely to sign Carter Hart before Aiden Hill ever got hurt. So Kelly McCrimmon was already going after Carter Hart when he had a healthy Aiden Hill and a healthy Akira Schmid, which means he thought he needed to upgrade on this position. Will he still think that if Carter Hart is out for a long time here? Will he still think that, or is he going to roll with Hill and Schmid? Maybe they'll make a trade. We'll talk to Jesse Granger of The Athletic a little bit later about goaltending and about the trade deadline and this position. I guess it's a position that you look at, but it is a very, very hard position to go out and trade for a goalie that helps you or improves your team, right? Like, are they going to find a goalie at the trade deadline that's better than Aiden Hill? No, probably not. Are they going to find one that's better than Akira Schmid? Maybe. It's definitely possible. Akira Schmid's slightly below average goaltender, right? Can they find somebody better than Akira Schmid? Probably. Is it going to be worth the price to upgrade your backup goalie? Depends on how healthy you think Aiden Hill's going to stay and how well you feel about Akira Schmid starting a potential playoff game if Aiden Hill does get hurt. Also, by the way, Kelly McCrimmon hasn't taken questions about Carter Hart still. That has not happened. Now, the Golden Knights, they're back, though. They've got 4 straight wins. Unsurprisingly, it's with Eichel and with Theodore coming back, the Golden Knights start winning. There still isn't a lot of separation in the Pacific Division, but if we go back just a week ago, 3 points separated the top 6 teams in the Pacific Division. That was just 1 week ago. So the Golden Knights have put together some space between them and some other teams in the Pacific Division. They're the only team in the Pacific with a points percentage over 600. They're still the favorites to win this division. Dom Lucian of The Athletic, he does updated projections throughout the entire season, and the Golden Knights actually have the 3rd best probability to win the Stanley Cup, which sounds surprising given that, again, they have more losses than wins this year. But the fascinating part about this season is Golden Knights are 3rd. They are nowhere close to 1st or 2nd. Colorado has the highest probability to win the Stanley Cup at 30%. Tampa Bay is at 29%. And then the Golden Knights are at 9%. 20 percentage points separate 2nd from 3rd. It's a huge gap, right? Like, obviously, that's bigger than the gap between the Golden Knights and the last place team in the NHL, because that can only be 9%. It's wild what it is. And on the Golden Knights side, right, there's a couple of reasons that they are 3rd most likely to win the Cup despite having more losses than wins right now. The Pacific Division is weak. The path to the conference final is relatively easy out of this division. And the Golden Knights' advanced stats are better than their record. They absolutely are. The save percentage is bad. The goaltending's been bad, right? They've been unlucky in that regard if you look at expected goals versus what they've done this year. But there is reason to believe this team is going to be good, but probably not Stanley Cup good if you think Colorado and Tampa Bay are this much better than everybody else. And the big picture question in the NHL here, is this an NBA type season? Right? We're kind of used to the NHL being pretty wide open, but the NBA being the league where it's like, all right, there's 3, maybe 4 teams that can win the NBA finals, and we know who those teams are going to be right now. Is that what we're getting in the NHL? Like, are we getting Colorado, Tampa, and the rest of this kind of doesn't matter? Because that's not what hockey's been for the longest time. It's more wide open. It's more random, supposed to be. So I'm kind of curious to see if that actually plays out. Are those 2 teams actually that much better than everybody else? Or maybe just is Colorado that much better than even Tampa, and they're going to win the Stanley Cup and nothing else matters. Also on the Golden Knights, not good news on William Karlsson. Ken Volke of SendBin.Vegas tweeted out, according to multiple sources, William Karlsson will not be available for the Golden Knights when NHL play begins following the Olympics. And he's highly unlikely to be ready before the trade deadline on March 6th. So the Olympic break is like February 5th through the 25th or something like that. So Karlsson's not going to be available at the very end of February and probably won't be available at the trade deadline. Ken also tweeted, there's a reasonable chance he does not play again this season, including the playoffs, as surgery may be necessary. And then he added, still not exactly sure what lower body injury is because that's what William Karlsson has been designated with. This is probably the trade deadline altering news for the Golden Knights. Presumably the Golden Knights have more concrete info about William Karlsson, though that line about surgery may be necessary. Maybe they don't actually have concrete info because William Karlsson's already been out for, what are we on, 2 months at this point? And we're just now, surgery may be necessary. What the hell have they been doing for the last 2 months? That seems like that should have been taken care of already. So if you're the Golden Knights and you're looking towards the trade deadline, goaltending, that could be a question. But this kind of makes the center position a must add if you're going forward to the trade deadline. If you think you can win the Stanley Cup, right? If they sit back and say, we're not that good, we got more losses than wins, we don't want to give up future assets to add to this team, you might not add anything because you might just say, we can't win the Stanley Cup this year, so why would we go for it at the trade deadline? But that has not been the Golden Knights' MO. They always think they can win it. They always have been going for it. So if they are going for it, center becomes a must-add. Right now, Mitch Marner is still playing at center. Eichel, Hertl, and Colton Sissons are the 3 like real centers playing. And then Marner's playing out of position to play center. Brett Howden is sort of the other center. He's out with what appears to be a short-term injury, but, we never know on that. But that's it. They don't have other centers in this organization. Unless somebody comes up from the AHL and is like this great surprise. They don't have other centers in the organization. Even if Karlsson was healthy, they might need a center just for some assurances. But with Karlsson probably not ready for the trade deadline, that's 50 days before the playoffs start, something like that. You have to trade for a center if you're adding to this roster. And I think the big point to make here is when we're looking at roster construction, is this was a mistake from Kelly McCrimmon. This is a roster that was not well put together by Kelly McCrimmon. Big thing to look at is when they get Mitch Marner, they traded Nick Waugh to Toronto 2 days before Mitch Marner became a free agent or would have become a free agent. It was unnecessary. They get Mitch Marner, they add to the top-end talent of the roster, but ignore the low-end talent of the roster. And now we're talking about not having center depth, we're talking about not having Nick Waugh, and if you look beyond that, right, the bottom pair for this team hasn't been great. You also have the bottom 6 forward group, not great. Like sometimes Hertl's playing down there at center. Karlsson, when he's healthy, is playing down there. But other than those two, like, what's Riley Smith adding to the team? What's Brandon Saad adding to the team? Keegan Colasar, he scored a goal. But, like, it's just the depth on this team is not there. So what does that mean for this team and their chances to actually win? It certainly looks like we've had somewhat of a poor roster build from Kelly McCrimmon. Not terrible, right? Like, the team's in first place in the Pacific, the top-end talent is good, but it just seems like and they ignored depth. They ignored goaltending depth until Carter Hart was available. They ignored center depth, and I think that's sort of been a big problem for this team. Technically Correct is brought to you by Battle Blast Las Vegas, the best laser tag in Las Vegas. Battle Blast is a perfect spot for your next event, kid's birthday party, a corporate event, Little League season ends, you want to have your team party there, take it to Battle Blast. That is the place to go. And I'll say do your own birthday party there. I've got to go down there with some of my friends. My birthday's not for a little while, but we'll figure it out. Go down there, laser tag at Battle Blast Las Vegas. Plus, they've got arcade, prizes. There's more than just laser tag there. It's Battle Blast Las Vegas, located at 8125 West Sahara Avenue. Battle Blast Las Vegas, your next stop for fun here in Vegas.
Battle Blast, been serving Las Vegas since June 2012 with the very best in family entertainment. We are proud to provide the best facility, equipment, and service possible. Strap on laser tag vests, step into the 5,600 square foot two-story arena designed to look like a worn-torn city street. An exciting atmosphere filled with exhilarating music, blacklight effects, and fog. Battle Blast also features a viewing deck for those not playing can watch players vest up and catch a view of the action going on in the arena. In between games, check out our arcade and prize center and enjoy tasty treats from our snack bar. Birthday parties, sports teams, group outings, and corporate events. Battle Blast does it all. We want to make your Battle Blast experience so good you'll want to return again and again. Battle Blast is the ultimate destination for family fun and friendly competition.
A big thank you to Battle Blast Las Vegas for sponsoring the show. Check them out at battleblast.lv.com if you are interested in going out and playing some laser tag. But in Bischoff's briefs, Tomas Hertl was the first star of the week in the NHL. 3 goals and 6 assists last week. The Golden Knights played 4 games, by the way. They play 4 games this week, and then it's 3 games, 4 games, 3 games in the last 3 weeks before the Olympic break. So a lot of games here in a hurry for the Golden Knights as we have this almost month-long break in the middle of the season for the Olympics. Got to get those games in. But I think it's not a coincidence that Tomas Hertl has this massive week and the Golden Knights are winning games again. I think the playoff run, what it looks like for Vegas, is largely going to be based on what do the star players do. Eichel, Marner, Stone, Hertl, those 4. You might be able to throw Dorofeyev in there, maybe Barbashev because he generally plays up there and maybe he's the one that finishes off some goals from Eichel or Marner, whoever it is. But I think those 4, those top forwards, they're going to have to score. If they score a lot, the Golden Knights are winning playoff series. But if this team gets eliminated, whatever round that is, if they don't win the Stanley Cup, I think we're probably going to look back and it's going to be, Eichel had 2 goals in the last 5 games. Marner didn't have a goal in the last 5 games of the series and had 2 assists, right? Stone only had 1. Hertl had 3, right? And we're going to look back and say, oh, wow. Those players are going to have to account for multiple goals a game, I think, in the postseason. And they can't do that. We just saw that, right? If they do that in the playoffs, they'll win a lot of playoff series, maybe win the whole thing. But if they get eliminated, I think we're going to look back, and that'll be a big reason why. UNLV is back in action. They host Boise State tonight, 8 o'clock start. Boise State is struggling. They've lost 3 straight Mountain West games. They lost that triple overtime game to San Diego State, and then blown out at home by Grand Canyon and blown out at home by Utah State, lost by 17 and 25. Boise State's had a kind of weird up and down season. They lost their season opener to Hawaii Pacific, a non-Division I school. But they beat Butler, they beat St. Mary's, they beat New Mexico, all top 60 teams, all 3 really good wins. But then they get smacked in their last 2 games. So I don't know what to make of that team. They're still in the top 100 of KenPom. Their strength of schedule's in the top 10 because they did play a legitimately good schedule this year. But I don't know what to make of how good Boise State is because they've had all types of different performances. As I smack my mic around here, hopefully it didn't sound too terrible. But one thing to watch in this game, and pretty much every game that UNLV plays, UNLV shoots a lot of free throws, and UNLV's opponent shoot a lot of free throws. This year, UNLV is shooting the 7th most free throws per game in the country. Their opponents are shooting the 13th most free throws per game. UNLV cannot help themselves. They can't do it. They foul everybody, but at the same time, they draw a ton of fouls. It's kind of wild, and what it means is there have been 53.6 free throw attempts per game on average in UNLV games this season. It does suck to watch, right? Like, it's bad. It's style of basketball, form of basketball when there are that many fouls. Now, Boise State also shoots a lot of free throws. They're in the top 100 in free throw attempts per game. Defensively, they're pretty average. They don't foul guys a lot, but they're not great at not fouling. So both teams will probably shoot a lot of free throws again. I'm also interested to see in this one, Josh Pastner. We talked to him yesterday before this game, and I asked him specifically, like, do you know your best lineup at this point in the season? And he truthfully was like, no. And he said in his answer, like, yeah, it's kind of a bad thing. We're halfway through the year and you don't know. You'd like to have that set by now. You'd like to have your rotation set, but they don't. And understandably, right, injuries involved and all of that, like Miles Che and Laji Dembele, like that makes it more difficult. There has been more lineup uncertainty because of that. However, the roster construction wasn't great to begin with, and I don't think you can give Pastner a pass just because of the injuries. There's still legitimate problems here. But I also don't have any idea what the best lineup is. Evan Maya, website, he tracks this, and the best lineup this season, Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn, Howie Fleming, Cavani Hamilton, Tyron Jones, Jacob Benarbi. However, that lineup has primarily been used against the bad teams. That was the starting lineup that played the most minutes in that blowout win against Air Force. Individually, Jacob Benarbi has the best plus-minus on the team. But again, he's primarily played his big minutes against the worst teams. Evan Maya, it's actually Evan Mia, actually has a tracker for quality of opponent for your minutes played, and Jacob Benarbi has the easiest quality of opponent on the roster. So some of those sort of plus-minus numbers are inflated based on opponent where he wasn't playing as many minutes, in the Alabama blowout loss or something like that. I think Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn has to start. He's the only reliable ball handler on the team. Cavani Hamilton is the best player. There's some foul issues there. Josh Pastner even said yesterday he's got to be better at a lot of things, but he's the best player on the team. Those two are in the lineup. I would go Emmanuel Stephan at center. UNLV's defensive numbers are very good when he plays. Small sample size, so maybe that changes, but he's defensively has made an impact. And then I'd go Howie Fleming for shooting, or at least the potential of shooting. He has not shot the ball well this year, but he has in the past. And then for the final spot, I'd go Isaac Williamson or Al Green. Neither one's been very good this year, but again, I want the shooting. Tyron Jones is better than both, but I want the shooting, or at least the potential shooting. Tyron Jones isn't even shooting. So I want the potential shooting there. Tyron Jones would still play a lot for me coming off the bench, but I don't want that starting lineup and the most used lineup to have three guys that are just complete non-shooters. Emmanuel Stephan and Tyron Jones don't shoot, and Cavani Hamilton is a bad shooter who shoots a little bit. Like, I don't want that. I want to get three shooters on the floor as much as possible, but it's hard to do because this roster is just not good. It's just not a good roster, and there's not enough shooting to do that. So I don't think there's a great answer for Josh Pastner, but it's not a great look to not know what your best lineup is and what your rotation should look like at this point in the season. Raiders, we got some more coaching updates. They are requesting to interview Jesse Mentor. That is the defensive coordinator of the LA Chargers. Chargers got knocked out of the playoffs. Another defensive name, so it's skewed. I think it's now 6-4 for the 10 people they've either interviewed or requested an interview. It's 6-4 in terms of offensive-minded versus defensive-minded. Mike LaFleur is staying put in Green Bay. He is not leaving. The Packers are not firing LaFleur. I think that would have been dumb of Green Bay to do that. And we have not seen, or at least I have not seen, the Raiders request an interview or just have an interview. I guess they don't have to request. He got fired with Mike McDaniel as head coach. Got fired by the Dolphins. I'll say this. I think McDaniel is the perfect offensive coordinator candidate for a team that does have a defensive-minded head coach. I do think that's where he would fit well. I don't know if I'd want him as my head coach. But again, like I said yesterday, if you hire a defensive-minded head coach, McDaniel comes in as the OC. If the offense is great for 2 years, McDaniel's probably getting another shot to be a head coach. And then you've got to go find another good offensive coordinator. So I haven't seen the Raiders request or interview Mike McDaniel, but wouldn't be surprising if they did because other teams have done that. Ty Simpson is potentially going back to college. The Alabama quarterback is planning to go to the NFL draft, but AL.com is reporting that multiple teams have made offers to Ty Simpson to come back to school, go in the transfer portal, and transfer to their school. Multiple SEC programs have offered him $4 million, and according to AL.com, one power conference team made an offer of $6.5 million. To give you some numbers, only the top 7 picks in the NFL draft will make over $6.5 million next season, and only the top 15 will make over $4 million next season. Now, obviously, you sign a contract for 4 years, not just 1, so there's more years added on, but Ty Simpson next year would almost certainly make more money going back to college than he would on his first rookie contract. I haven't seen any teams, the names reported of the teams. LSU presumably would have been one. They just got Levitt, so maybe not. Ole Miss might have been one. Miami is losing Carson Beck, so they actually make a lot of sense as well. Also, Marvin Menzies is out at UMKC. He's going to finish out the season, according to Jeff Goodman, but the former UNLV head coach is done at his newest school. UMKC is 4-14 this season under Menzies. They're ranked 337, and Ken Pom, it's his worst season at UMKC in his 4th year. I wonder if he regrets taking the UNLV job. He took it late, didn't have a real chance in his first year to win anything, but got fired after year 3. He certainly could have done something in years 2 and 3 better than he did. But would he have been better off staying in New Mexico State, having another season or 2 that was good, and then taking a different, higher profile job, one that he got on a normal timeline? I wonder if he thinks that at any point and how his career has played out. But this has been Bischoff's Briefs. It is brought to you by Battle Blast Las Vegas, the best laser tag in Las Vegas. Host your next birthday party at Battle Blast. Book the party package, and you'll get a private party room, a dedicated host, pizza, soda, arcade tokens, and of course, laser tag. Plus, you can add on a game just for adults, or, as I would suggest, just book it for your own birthday. Forget about the kids and just go for yourself. Battle Blast Las Vegas, located at 8125 West Sahara Avenue, your next stop for fun in Las Vegas. He is Jesse Granger from The Athletic. He's not here to tell us about how the Denver Broncos are the worst 1 seed in the history of the NFL playoffs. Unfortunately, we're talking about hockey. Jesse, by the way, has great football opinions because just by default, he thinks everybody's bad at football. That's how he views every team in every football league. It's great.
Yes, that is true. And for the most part, I'm right.
All right. So the Golden Knights finally started winning games, but the goaltender position is now the most questionable it's been the whole season. I want to start with Aiden Hill. Is he back this week? Like, is that realistic that he's playing in one of the next couple of games?
I think it is realistic. It's tough to tell with goalies. We were actually having this conversation with Bruce Cassidy the other day, and he's like, why don't we have a red jersey for goalies? It's like, Bruce, I think you're the one that would make that call, so let's get on it. But he's right, though. Like with skaters, it's easier to tell the timeline. Obviously, the teams aren't going to lay the timeline out for us, so we have to look at cues. With goalies, it's tougher because it's different. They'll skate on their own sometimes without the team. They don't wear a non-contact jersey, so there isn't a cue of like when a player stops wearing the red jersey, it's like he's back today. For the goalie, we don't have that. I do think it's realistic. He's been out a really long time, obviously, and I think that the fact that Carter Hart gets hurt and they're now back to a Lindbaum-Schmid duo that has not done well this year, it wouldn't surprise me if Aiden Hill's back. Maybe a little bit sooner. I know Bruce Cassidy said we're not going to rush him back, but in terms of you may not give him those extra couple days that you were just going to give him just for the heck of it. Now you actually need him in there. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back in the net sooner rather than later.
Can a goalie even practice non-contact? Or you're going to get contacted by the puck, aren't you?
Right. I mean, you'd hope that it's always non-contact in terms of like players running into him. We just saw Igor Shesterkin. Like, it's so easy to get hurt on the tiniest little bump when you're in a weird position. So I would hope it's always a non-contact, but I think it's more just for us, for the media, than it is for the actual players on the ice.
So Hill is coming back. Carter Hart just got hurt. They said it's week to week. That usually means like month to month. Is there anything else to know about Carter's Hart injury other than it's week to week and probably going to be somewhat long term?
Right. I mean, the fact that it was whenever it's for a goalie around their knees or hips, and just like Aiden Hill's was, that's always like worst case scenario. Like with Aiden Hill, it didn't even look like it was that bad of an injury when it happened, and look where we are. It's been months and he hasn't played because it's around that knee, hip, groin area. Those are usually like, whether it's like a tear, then you're probably out for the season. If it's just a strain for that position specifically, it's going to be a while. I would be shocked if we see Carter Hart anytime soon. What's going to be interesting is it's almost certainly like I'd be surprised if we see him back before like the trade deadline. And then that makes an interesting scenario for the Golden Knights because they're going to have three goalies. If he eventually does return, this is assuming Carter Hart's not out for the season, they're going to get to a point where they have three goalies. And I don't think Akira Schmid would clear waivers if you tried to send him down. So they may end up getting stuck with three goalies. Now, once the trade deadline passes, the roster limits go away. So three goalies isn't that big of a deal in terms of that, but it is in terms of the cap hit. So it puts them in an interesting situation.
Before I ask about the trade deadline, I want to ask you just in general, is this the worst goaltending year the Golden Knights have had?
For sure, statistically. I was actually just looking at these numbers yesterday, and I feel like we all think the Golden Knights haven't been very good defensively just because the goalies have been so bad. It's messed up our perception. The Golden Knights are allowing the second fewest shots per 60 in the NHL behind only Carolina. They're allowing the second fewest expected goals per 60 behind only Carolina. And those numbers are better than they were the year they won the Cup. Like, this team is defending very well. Now, I will say, there are anecdotal little plays in there where they are screening the crap out of their own goalies. There's no doubt about that. And Bruce Cassidy brings it up in just about every press conference. Like, because they play this zone defense where they all kind of sit in the shooting lanes and they do block a lot of shots, which is typically a good thing for a defense, you are going to screen your goalie on those. And there's nothing he can really do other than just guess where the puck is going. And if his glove doesn't hit it, it goes in, like the one on Carter Hart a couple nights ago. But overall, the defensive numbers are good enough to be one of the better teams in the league. The fact that the goaltending is as bad as it's been and the numbers are as bad as it's been, I tend to I'll make an excuse for a goalie here and there if the eye test is telling me something a little bit, then the numbers will say. But when they're 27th in save percentage, I think is the last time I looked. It's kind of hard to make an excuse at that point. The goaltending has not been good enough, and they really need Aiden Hill. Like, to me, the only way the Golden Knights reach the level of hockey that they believe that they have in them, every fan watching this, in order for them to get where they want to go, it's up to Aiden Hill. Can Aiden Hill come in and be the goalie that he was in 2022-23 playoffs? I thought last year he had really good stretches. He has to be at his best for this team to do what it wants to do.
Okay, so with that in mind, and you mentioned the possibility of having to carry three goalies if Carter Hart's healthy before the trade deadline. Should they trade for a goalie? Like, should they just simply say, hey, we hope Aiden Hill comes back, stays healthy, and plays really well? They won a Stanley Cup with Aiden Hill playing really well. Or should they say, it doesn't matter if we have three goalies because at least two of them haven't been very good for us, so we need to go trade for something else that is at the very least Aiden Hill insurance? Like, what do they do? Because I feel like they probably should at least trade for a goalie, but then I don't know what you do if Carter Hart comes back, and I don't know if there's going to be one that's actually good enough to justify trading for a goalie at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. They know more about Carter Hart's injury than we do. If they believe he's out for the season, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they add a veteran backup type of goalie. Like we just saw, Ottawa just signed James Reimer. That's the type of addition I would expect. Like a guy who, if Aiden Hill were to get hurt, we are not totally screwed type of guy. Like, I don't think they're going to bring in someone that can challenge Aiden Hill. I think maybe they thought that would be Carter Hart. Clearly that hasn't happened, both in terms of his performance and obviously the fact that he got injured. But it's interesting. If they were to choose to bring in a goalie, it has to be someone on a 1-year deal, because you've got, like, when they signed that deal with Carter Hart, it's a 2-year deal, and he's back next year for $2 million. You can't bury that in the minors. There will still be, even if you put him in the minors, there will still be salary up at the NHL level because it's above the threshold. So I would be surprised if they add a goalie who is like an addition, like a permanent addition to the team. But I wouldn't be surprised if they add some veteran who they can add on a cheap deal that's expiring, that it'll just be for a rental as insurance for Aiden Hill as they go to the playoffs.
On the bad save percentage of this team and the fact that they're not giving up the shots and the chances, is there anything stylistically between Akira Schmid or Carter Hart or Carl Lindbaum that's different from what Aiden Hill does or anybody else has done in the past that would lead to that? Like, is there a style problem that's not meshing well?
That's a good question. I think to me, I see them as, I think Schmid is much more similar to Hill. They're both big goalies, kind of blocking guys. And to me, that is the style that fits the way the Golden Knights play defense best. Because when you set up a zone around your net and you're just not going to allow the puck into the slot, and that means there's going to be shots from distance. That means there's going to be traffic. There's going to be screens. And to me, like, I've been a big proponent of these little goalies need to be given more of a chance. Like, the NHL doesn't give them a chance, and now we see Dustin Wolf and Jet Greaves in Columbus playing much better. But there are certain situations in the hockey game where the only way you can be better at this is by being bigger. And when it's a screenshot, the bigger the goalie is, the better chance it has of hitting him, the more net coverage he has. So to me, that's why goalie coach Sean Burke and why Bruce Cassidy and why the Golden Knights have sort of leaned towards that big blocking goalie back from when they acquired Robin Lehner. Obviously, Aiden Hill's that style. Akira Schmid's that style. Carter Hart and Lindbaum are not at all. They're smaller, more athletic, more acrobatic goalies who kind of are all over the place. And to me, that's a style that lends itself to more of those leaky goals happening. And we saw it with Carter Hart. Like, I think a lot of fans got excited about Carter Hart because he will make those 10 bell saves where it's like a ridiculous one-timer across the slot. But then at the end of the night, he's got 4 goals against every single time. And I think that's why. I think it's those leaky goals of maybe he didn't quite see the release, so he wasn't there. And he's just not a giant human being the way Schmid and Hill are, so the puck doesn't hit him. So, yes, I do think stylistically that's the kind of goalie that Sean Burke would prefer and the Golden Knights would prefer. Although with this team, the way they handle the goalies, it's like it's hard to predict what they're going to do because it's craziness.
Looking to next year with the goaltending, Hill and Hart are under contract for next season. Hill for longer than that. Is that a good goaltending duo? If I told you they're both healthy for all of next season, is that a good goaltending duo?
I think it's going to be tough to upgrade on. I'll put it that way. Like it's kind of, there are only a handful of elite goalies in this league that are just going to win you games, like Ilya Sorokin is doing for the Islanders right now. But those goalies just, teams won't give them up. And like Edmonton has been having this issue for years now, in that it's hard to upgrade from when you've got a goalie who's like the league average 15th, 16th best goalie in the league, the way I would say a Skinner is. I think Aiden Hill might be a little bit better than that, but he's kind of in that same tier. It's very, very hard to upgrade on that. So like, would the Golden Knights like a better goalie than Aiden Hill? I think they would. But considering the landscape and how hard it is to get a starting goalie, I think Hill's fine. And I think that the one thing Hill has shown us is he plays better in the postseason than he does in the regular season. He's done it every single year. Even last year, when things didn't go well in the playoffs, I didn't think it was Hill at all was the problem in that Edmonton series. And the year before that, he was awesome against Dallas when they lost the first in 7 games. I think they lost like 1-0. And obviously the cup year, he was awesome. So I will say that I think Aiden Hill's kind of like an average regular season goalie, but he's the type of goalie that if he can stay healthy, like you said, if you're going to guarantee me health, then I do like my chances with Aiden Hill as my guy in the playoffs. And then Carter Hart is the backup. I think that's fine. I think whenever Aiden Hill is your goalie, you're going to need a better backup that has to play more games, because you don't want to overtax him the way you do maybe some of the other workhorses. And I think Carter Hart is a good enough goalie to do that. I don't think he's good enough to be a starter. Or you wouldn't feel comfortable with him as your starter going into a season. But I think as a backup tandem guy, I think Hart's fine.
All right. On the more important positions on the team than goalie, do you think the bottom of this roster, the Keegan Colasars, the Jeremy Lazons, the Riley Smith, Brandon Sodds, is the bottom of the roster good enough to win the Stanley Cup?
I think that's their weak spot. And we've kind of seen this team transition from being where that was where they got teams, was with the depth. Like when they won the cup against Edmonton, it was like, it's the Oilers. If they get a power play, they'll win. If not, we're going to crush them with our four lines. Now it's literally the opposite. Like we see this every night where the Golden Knights they're getting outscored at 5-on-5 for the first time in franchise history. They've never been outscored at even strength up until this year, and I think they're a -4, I think, at even strength this year. And yet, when they get a power play, it's like almost an automatic goal at this point because it's so good. So they've sort of flipped that philosophy, and I do think that the bottom of the lineup is hurting them. Riley Smith has played a little bit better lately, but he's still, to me, those bottom guys, I want them to be fast, physical players, like the way the line used to play when it was Carrier, Colasar, and Waugh. And they just don't have the speed. Like, I think that they do things well. I think Riley Smith and Brandon Saad can do certain things well, but they don't bring the speed and the physicality that I would like out of a bottom six that the Golden Knights used to have. And then you let the top six do all the skilled stuff. But I just wish they had a little more speed up front. In terms of, I'm not the biggest fan of Jeremy Lauzon's game. I think he hurts them obviously by taking penalties. He leads the team in penalties. I think it hurts a lot of the time when this team relies so much on structure, and because he's a physical presence, I do think sometimes he has a tendency to chase hits, and that takes him out of the spot he's supposed to be in. And one weak link in the structure, all of a sudden that's a chain reaction. It hurts everyone else. So I think that he may be a little bit of a weak link, but also at the same time, I think the defense has been fine. Bruce Cassidy's system makes it easier than most to play defense. And like I said earlier, I think the defensive numbers are good. The fact that they've been able to, obviously Petrangelo's gone the whole year. They've missed Theodore for a big stretch. They missed Hannafin before that. They haven't really had Theodore and Hannafin both in the lineup very many times this season. And the fact that they have the second fewest expected goals against at 5-on-5 while dealing with all of that, to me, I think the defense is, the depth on defense is fine.
So, okay, if this team is top heavy, like Edmonton has been in the past when they've matched up, and you need the best players on the team to be awesome to win. Mitch Marner right now, he's on pace for 19 goals and 67 assists, right? That'd be 86 points, which the Golden Knights, would be very good for franchise history. He's second in expected goals rate. I think it's Mark Stone is higher than him right now. His advanced stats are very good too. But is it fair to say a 90-point season for Marner is a letdown given the roster construction, given that they win after Marner instead of maybe 3 or 4 other players? Like, how do you view Mitch Marner in the context of this team and the way the roster was built to add him instead of maybe other pieces in the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers, I will say this, the way the Golden Knights play, it seems like it's really hard to put up like a 110-point season on this team. Like Jack Eichel, when I watch Jack Eichel play every night, there's no doubt in my mind he is better. He's a better hockey player than some guys who I see on other teams who are putting up 100 points. Like Jack Eichel is amazing. He is one of the 5 best players in the league to me. But he doesn't put up those numbers because he plays on a team that rolls 4 lines. He doesn't get quite as many minutes as some of those other guys. Like I don't really worry about the numbers as much with Marner as much as I do. I want to see him driving plays, and I want to see him getting the puck around the net. And so that's actually been happening more lately. Like earlier in the season, his points were fine, but they were all secondary assists. And it's like, I thought, yes, I know numbers wise it's fine, but he hasn't looked like the player he needs to be in order for this team to get where they want to, like you said. I think this last stretch, we've seen more of that from him. The biggest question is, can he do it in the playoffs? Because in Toronto, he had seasons that were way better than this, where he was in much better form. And then the playoffs get here and all of a sudden that dries up. So if Mitch Marner can drive offense on a line and get to the areas in front of the net in the playoffs, then I don't really care how many, if he has 80 points, if he has 90 points, whatever it is. I just want to see more of those types of plays as opposed to him picking up assists because he just happened to be on the ice and he was the second guy who passed it to the person who made the play. Like I said, he's rounding into that. I'm starting to maybe believe a little bit, but I'm still a little skeptical on that end.
So he's playing center still. Ken Bolke from Vegas tweeted out that William Karlsson's going to be out through the Olympics and even said that it's possible William Karlsson's done for the entire year. We talked about trading for a goalie. They got to trade for a center, right?
To me, that's the most pressing need. Like, I actually was thinking, like, I know everybody's been on Rasmus Anderson since the offseason is what people think is coming to Vegas. I think the way we've seen things play out, a center is clearly the way to go. The problem is that's like 75% of the NHL wants a center right now. And more specifically, the Golden Knights would like a value center who's not like they're not looking to go spend like a first round pick and get some huge salary center. They want a cheap center who can come in and play good minutes, but like I think every GM in the entire NHL is also looking for that exact specific type of player. So good luck getting one at a good value. Even if there is one available, there will probably be a bidding war on them. That is not an easy position. And it's part of the reason the Golden Knights have been so good is they've got so many good centers. And like it was a couple years ago, I feel like they had like 3 centers playing the wing because they had too many of them. And now all of a sudden they've got wingers playing center. It's the opposite.
Do you think Nick Waugh's available? I feel like he'd fit that pretty well.
Be nice, right? I don't know if they can fit his salary. He's playing pretty well up in Toronto. Yeah, I mean, and that's to me, that's where we were talking about the depth earlier. I think the Golden Knights thought Colton Sissons would be closer to Nick Waugh than he's been, and we're only halfway through the season. Maybe Sissons will end up being a better fit down the stretch. So far to this point, that drop off from Waugh to Sissons has been bigger than I expected. I think probably bigger than they expected also.
All right, I got a couple of non-Golden Knights things to ask you. First off, looking to the Olympics, are the Canadian goalies bad enough that they don't win gold?
Well, I think if they put Logan Thompson in the net, I think Logan Thompson's one of the best goalies in the league this year. I don't know if they will, though. That's the question, is like, are they going to ride Jordan Binnington into the sunset? Maybe big game Binnington will come in. I mean, he's been objectively horrible this year. I love Jordan Binnington. I can't defend his numbers this year. He has been objectively horrible. And you can't just blame the Blues either, because like I've heard Armstrong, who is the GM for Binnington's Blues and Team Canada, has said, well, we haven't played well enough in front of him. Well, Joel Hofer, the backup, has been playing out of his mind lately over the last month. Now, his season-long numbers are pretty bad because the start was so bad, but we've seen him turn the corner and start to play better, but Binnington hasn't. So to me, that tells me that his game isn't in good form. I think they'll probably give Binnington the first shot at it. And my concern, if I were rooting for Canada, which I'm not, but if I were rooting for Canada, my concern would be that Binnington's going to come in, and in the group stage, when you get to play some cans, he's going to look good because anyone would look good behind that Canadian team playing against some of these other teams. And that will give them the confidence that, okay, he just needed to get in the Olympics and now he's in form. And then all of a sudden you get to the one game that means something, whether it's the medal round or the gold medal game, and he's the Jordan Binnington we've seen all NHL season, which is not very good. So yes, I think if they play Binnington throughout the whole tournament, I think it's absolutely a chance that the goaltending could cost them the gold, and maybe the U.S. could sneak in there and grab it.
Is there a non-U.S., non-Canada team you're most interested in seeing?
Czechia. I love it. I'm partially biased just because I've been working on a big goalie story on the Czechia goalies. 1998 was like the biggest moment in maybe goaltending international history. Dominik Hasek basically single-handedly won it for the Czechs. I don't think they've got a goalie on that level this year, but Lukáš Dostal in Anaheim is awesome. And then they've also got some top guys up front. Like Czechia doesn't have anywhere near the depth that the big four, US, Canada, Sweden, and Finland have, but they've got Martin Necas has been awesome for the Avs. They've got Pasternak. They've got Tomáš Hertl. So they've got a few guys who can score enough goals to maybe get them a big one, and they've got a goalie who can steal the game for them. So I'm hoping Czechia kind of maybe upsets a team or two and makes it interesting.
What's more likely, somebody not named the Canada or the United States wins gold, or they abandon the entire Olympic hockey tournament because the arena just can't host games?
I think the second one is more likely. The pictures I've been seeing lately are terrifying. I hope for the sake of everyone involved that we get hockey games, but it's looking pretty rough.
All right. Last thing. I don't like goalies mainly because I'm friends with you and you love goalies too much. But I do have a positive thing for goalies that I think is very important and that the NHL needs to change, and it's own goals. It's wild to me that the NHL doesn't count own goals. We're giving out goals and assists to people who were trying to pass the puck and it gets deflected off an idiot's skate and goes in the net. It's stupid. It should be an own goal, not a goal for somebody that was passing the puck. But I was happy to tell you that if you've tracked it that way, the way they do in soccer, it doesn't count against the goalie. It does not hurt the save percentage of the goalie. It's not a shot on goal in soccer if a team scores an own goal. So you're on board with me on this, that we need own goals in the NHL so that goalie stats can get boosted back up a little bit.
Absolutely. I don't think I've ever been so excited about a goalie take you had. Usually I'm rolling my eyes and like ready to fight back. And this conversation we had stemmed from that. I wrote a story about the shots on goal and how they're counting them. And Joey Decord, Seattle Kraken goalie, had a great point of like, well, if the guy shoots it from behind the net, it's not a shot on goal until it hits me in the back of the head and goes in. So you're telling me I can create shots on goal? It's a phenomenal argument. I don't think we'll ever see the NHL go the way you're saying they should, mostly just because like 30% of the goals in the league would be own goals. And then like the leading goal scorer would have like 32 goals at the end of the year. Like we'd have Nathan McKinnon leading the NHL with 32 goals because all of the rest of them went in off somebody. But I'd love it. We'd see 920, 930 save percentages again. That might be the only way we can get back up to that.
To be clear, it's not an own goal if you shoot it and it's going on net and just gets deflected on the way. It's only an own goal if you're just going to completely miss the net, or it's a pass, or you do something like Leon Draisaitl did in the playoffs and just decide, hey, Riley Smith's pass looks like a good one to just stick in my own net. That's an own goal. But if you shoot it and just hits a defender's knee, that still counts as a goal. We're still crediting that.
The funny thing would be, though, like in soccer, it's so rare. I mean, goals themselves are so rare, but own goals are so rare that like you don't have guys rack them up. But in hockey, you'd see like at the end of the year, it'd be like, let's look at the own goal leaderboard. And you would have guys with like 15 own goals because they're a defenseman that sits in front of their net, and that, like it's bound to happen to them. It would be brutal.
I need when a team's negotiating with the free agent or whatever, or their own player, I need to hear a story of like, well, they went back through and they counted like, you scored 13 own goals this year and you're asking for 5 million. Let's bump that down to 3 million. You're not nearly as good as you think you are.
I bet the blocks leaders like Alec Martinez, Golden Knights fans will know. Like he's I bet if you went back and counted how many own goals he's got in his career, it's got to be like dozens of them.
Well, he is Jesse Granger from The Athletic. He loves goalies a little bit too much. What's your official title? Are you like goalie extraordinaire? Do you get to put that
goalie writer? We'll just go with goalie writer.
Okay.
Crease correspondent, I think, is what they came up with on the podcast, but we'll just go with goalie writer.
All right. Goalie writer Jesse Granger from The Athletic. Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks.